Hi everyone, and welcome to part 3 of Grayson's birth story. Now this is going to be a very detailed video. You guys wanted to hear all the details, and I actually wrote down my birth story in a book, and I am just going to share the whole thing with you. Now I apologize if this is a little boring to sit and stare at, because I'm going to have to look at it to be able to read it to you guys. I wrote this down so that I could remember everything, and I could remember everything that happened in order, because the more days that go by, the quicker you forget things, and it's surprising how quickly you forget things. Okay, so let's get started. So a little bit of background. I was having like early labor or false labor or whatever you call it for about 4 weeks before Grayson was born. It was really hard. I was really tired. I was just exhausted. I could hardly do anything because contractions would start and stop, and my body was just so ready for him, and I was so sore. Oh, it was not fun, but he was very worth the wait. And so I'm just going to take you back to when things really started to happen. So I was 41 weeks on Tuesday. What day was that? The 25th. Yes. So Tuesday the 25th of February, I turned 41 weeks pregnant. Now on Monday, I had emailed my midwife, and I was like, can I come in and do another visit, because I don't see my midwife every week like you usually do, because we live further away. We just choose not to go a lot of the time. We see her enough to be good and safe, and if there's a problem, I went and saw her. But this time I was like, I didn't have an appointment, but I was like, can we just make one, because I am 41 weeks pregnant and I am done. And when I say I'm done, we really believe in natural. We didn't want to push him out if he wasn't ready or anything, so I just wanted to make an appointment to see if he was ready, and I knew he was ready, my body was ready. And that weekend I often checked my cervix for progress, just to see what was going on, and I could feel his head was like right there, and so I knew we were ready and my body was ready. It's just, this little guy was very, very comfy in there. Yeah, he's a noisy eater, sorry. On Monday, my midwife said, yeah, sure, come in tomorrow, we'll make an appointment. And so on Tuesday, we went in to go see her, and we checked everything out. He was great, and we just basically went, what do you want to do? And I said, you know, I want to stay natural, and I don't want to force him out, but I feel like my body is ready. I know my body. I just feel like I need a tiny little push. Now remember, I've been in like early labor for like 4 weeks, so my body was so ready. And so on Tuesday, she's like, okay, well, let's do and I asked if we could do a stretch of my cervix. So on Tuesday we did a stretch, except for his head was so low she couldn't really reach my cervix. And so, because the deal was his head was like here, and my cervix was up on the, kind of not on top of his head, but like way further up, and so his head was actually below my cervix. And so she pulled, basically what she couldn't reach my cervix to do a stretch on Tuesday, so what she did was she tried to pull it down over his head. That sounds painful, but it was fine. And then we also did a homeopathic, they're like little balls of like sugar, they taste like, but they had some like natural herbs and I think some essential oils and stuff in there that are known to help start labor or progress labor. And so I started taking those, and we stayed in the city just in case I went into labor. And so we took the day, and after we did that, we walked around the zoo for the day, and then after the zoo we walked around the mall, and we stayed in the city all day. And I had strong Braxton Hicks and a lot of pressure, but no contractions that actually felt like contractions, and not in my contraction zone. And so our midwife and us, we made a plan that I would come back. If this didn't work, we'd come back in on Wednesday and we could do another stretch, and maybe do some castor oil. And then if that didn't work, I would do my ultrasound on Friday to check him out, because keep in mind I would be 41.5 weeks then, and just to make sure that he's doing okay. And then if he didn't come by then, Saturday we would come back in and do it all over again. And that's pretty much all we could do, and we just hope he comes. And so we went home on Tuesday at like 6 o'clock at night. Nothing happened. Everything was fine. And so on Wednesday we got up at, and this is where everything starts. So on Wednesday we woke up in the morning and we had an appointment with our midwife Jana at 10:30, and so at 8:30 we left the house and we went out for a nice pancake breakfast together. We were crossing our fingers that it would be the last breakfast that we would have just as a family of 3, and we were hoping so badly that today would be the day. And so we had our breakfast and then we took off to the city to go see our midwife. At 10:30 a.m. we met with Jana, who is our midwife, and Ray, who is the student midwife that was attending our birth. And we met her at the birth center because our birth center is the only freestanding birth center in Canada. And so the birth center is on the top with all the rooms, and it's really lovely. It's just a converted house, and the basement is actually our midwife clinic. And so we met at the birth center at 10:30 and we talked about what we wanted to do. And if I wanted, she asked like if I wanted to do castor oil, if I wanted to try it. And so I decided to do a second stretch of my cervix and the castor oil. And she mixes castor oil with an essential oil, and I'm forgetting what it's called. It's like this very lemony essential oil that's supposed to help bring on labor. And so when she did the second stretch, my cervix was like super ready. So I was already, and if you don't already know, this is the birth story, so I'm gonna talk a lot about like birth stuff. So my cervix was totally ready. She could stretch it to like, she could dilate it to like, stretch it to like a 3 or 4, and it was just like coming away as she was doing it. So she was like, okay, well I don't really need to do much to that. She's like, your cervix is totally ready. So my body was so ready, and it was actually, my cervix had actually moved from Tuesday, and so she could actually feel it and do things to it. And so then we did, so I took the oils with just some juice that she had, and it's funny, they left the room, the midwives, because they're like, oh, like, we'll give you space and stuff. And so I'm expecting it to be totally horrible from all the horror stories you hear about castor oil, and it actually wasn't bad. I don't know, I'm used to taking fermented cod liver oil, and so maybe that's why it wasn't bad to me. But no, it wasn't that bad at all. And so Jana then gave me a bag with like a bunch of mesh panties and Chex pads and stuff like that, along with the second half of the dose of castor oil should we decide to take it. And so she gave us the bag because our plan was to go walk around the nearest mall, stay close to the birth center, and just hopefully things would get going. And so then we made an agreement that she would call me at about 12:30, and then we would decide if I was going to take the castor oil, and if I was going to take the second dose, then I would take it about 1 o'clock, so that hopefully things would happen so I wasn't tired from all the walking and any effects from the castor oil and everything like that. And so she told us to mark our bathrooms, and away we went. And so 11 o'clock we left the midwife and we headed to the mall to walk. And we stopped, well, first we stopped at the comic book store because it was Comic Book Wednesday, and then we started walking around the mall. I was making sure I was drinking tons of fluid because castor oil it's notorious for giving you the runs, and so I knew that if it was going to give me that effect, that I needed to stay super hydrated. And so I went pee after because I was drinking so much water already, and I noticed a bit of show from the sweep, so like a little bit of bloody show from the sweep. And then then we just kept walking more. We took Kinsey to the toy store, and let her pick out her big sister toy, and she picked some calico critters, and we had fun like that. And I started contracting, but it was still just really strong Braxton Hicks. It was hard to walk though. I had a lot of pelvic pressure, and like his head was so low that it just was causing a lot of pressure. I was definitely doing like the bowling ball between the legs penguin walk. And so then I had to pee again, so I went to the washroom, and then I like lost tons of plug and show, and it was like, oh my gosh, like I never lost that much, because I lost my mucus plug at 37 weeks, and then again on Tuesday night after the stretch I lost my mucus plug again, because it can regenerate itself. And so then when this second time I went pee, there was just tons. And so I called Jaina to make sure that that was normal, because I was like, oh, I'm not used to seeing so much, because there was like blood in it and stuff. So, and she was like, no, that's fine, keep walking, that's really, really good, yay, good sign. And so, so we kept walking after that, and I didn't notice any side effects from the castor oil yet. I wasn't gassy, I had no tummy cramps, I literally felt like I didn't take it at all. And so she called, and I told her that, and I just told her what was happening. And so I agreed to take the second dose at 1 p.m. after I ate some food to make sure I had food in my stomach. So at 1 p.m. we went to the cafeteria, we grabbed some lunch, and I started to feel regular, strong Braxton Hicks contractions. They still weren't painful, they weren't in my contraction spot, and they still didn't feel like my legitimate contractions. But they were strong, and they were starting to like have a pattern to them. And it just, I knew I wasn't in labor yet, but it felt like things were moving along finally. So that was really nice. At 1:30 I took the second dose because I wanted to eat lunch first, and so while I was eating I took the second dose in orange juice, and that was worse than the first time. I think orange juice is just not good. I mixed it with like peach juice the first time. So if you gotta take it with peach juice. I went pee, and there was more show, and so we just kept walking. And at this point I'm starting to get uncomfortable. They still don't feel like real contractions, but there's a lot of pressure from his head, plus all the walking, and lots of Braxton Hicks contractions. And they were like just really tight, but they were still all in my belly area. And I get my contractions between my pubic bone, like it's like right within my pubic bone. It's a very small area, and it's just very concentrated. So Cody ends up needing to run to the store for something, so I decided to sit and rest in like the little mall couch areas. And while I'm sitting there with Mackenzie, I noticed that the castor oil is starting to take effect. The second dose I started getting like really bad gas pains, and my stomach sounded like a monster was trying to like break out. I've always had gas pain that's like really painful, that like felt like contractions even before I had kids. And so with the castor oil gas pain, they might as well have been big contractions, and it was just not fun. And so I was like calling Cody, and I was like, dude, it's time to go, like let's get out of here, I need to get out of the mall, I'm very uncomfortable. And so I started getting impatient with him, and then he finally comes out, probably only like 15 minutes later, and then I tell him, I was like, I need to leave now. I think things are starting to happen, so let's go. And not like let's go to the birth center, but let's leave the mall, let's get in the truck, let's go drive around, let's go do something, I just need to leave the mall. And so we left the mall and we started driving around, and I was really hoping, we were both really hoping that Mackenzie would take a nap because she was kind of cranky, and so we're hoping that she'll take a nap in the truck, and then we can all just have a little rest and a little break. And after driving around, she falls asleep, and we decide to park in a parking lot. And so we just like chill out in the parking lot, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna take a nap, or I was just resting, and I just did not want to be in the mall. So I'm still really uncomfortable from the gassiness at this point, and the Braxton Hicks are still just Braxton Hicks contractions, but they're about 12 minutes apart at this point. Hello, food. And so my tummy starts making like crazy sounds, like super intense, insane, crazy animal sounds. And like Cody was looking at me like, oh my god, are you gonna blow up? And then so I decided, I'm like, okay, I think I should head to the washroom. And then so at about 3 o'clock I go into like this little weird strip mall we were parked in, and I go to the washroom, and TMI alert, I totally explode. It was awful. But And at this point I start to regret taking the castor oil because exploding does not feel fun. It's not, no. I am in the washroom dying, and no, not really, it was like bad, but it wasn't that bad. And so I go back to the truck and we just hang out in the truck for a while. Kenzie's sleeping, Cody's on his phone and reading his comics, and then I end up going to the washroom one more time, and it was less awful, but still awful. And when I got back to the truck, I'm just so tired from walking and from exploding, and I'm like, I just felt I was still keeping super hydrated, but Cody and I start talking about what our next move is, like what are we gonna do? Are we gonna stay close? Do we think labor's starting? And so then I was just like, you know what, I am so tired. And I wasn't like physically tired, I was just like, ugh, I'm just done. And so I was like, let's just go home and we'll take a nap, and you know, if we end up turning around halfway home, then whatever, we turn around, but let's just head home, let's do something. And so our plan was to go home and take a nap. And because our truck was already fully packed for what we needed, we packed it that day. And so I felt like labor would happen that day, like on Wednesday, I just didn't know when. So around 4 p.m. I fell asleep in the truck, and then, well, at 4 p.m. we drove home, and we got home, and I had fallen asleep in the truck, and just as we were pulling in, my stomach went crazy. Like, it was the craziest sounding thing, and I felt awful, and I was like, oh my god, let me out now. So Cody didn't even park, and I just like booked it out of the truck and into the bathroom at home, and I exploded yet again, and it was horrible. That one was awful. And I was like, oh my god, I hate castor oil. This is horrible. And then after that I felt really good though, and I felt way better. And I decided, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go take a hot bath. And Cody's tired too from just walking around with us, and it's been 2 days, and he's been off work because he's just been in and out of like early labor, and it's just, he's tired. So he takes a nap. He puts on a show for Mackenzie downstairs and sits on the couch with her and takes a nap, and I, feeling much less explosive, I get into the tub, and it feels really, really awesome, and I just rest and I relax. I called Jana, our midwife, and tell her that we came home, and she asked me a few questions and tells me to have a bath, which I was already in the tub, and to call her if anything happens. And so I just relax more, and I would just really chill out and enjoy the water and just let myself kind of calm down from the day. I'm having really tight Braxton Hicks contractions at this point, but again, they're not in my contraction spot yet, and I know it's not labor yet, but I'm really hopeful that it will be. I decided to get out and plan to go have a nap because I'm like done with the tub. I've been in here for a while, and I just figure a nap will hopefully just give me rest and start things. And then while I was deciding that, I was having a oddly really long and tight Braxton Hicks contraction. Like, it was literally like 10 minutes long, and I was like, what is going on? Like, this is really weird. I'm gonna get out of the tub and go lay down, and hopefully it'll chill out, because it was just really, really odd. And so at about 5:26 p.m. I step out of the tub, I take about 2 steps, and a big gush of pink fluid comes out, and I was like, oh, and then so I caught the next one to check it, and a big dark glob of plug came out, which surprised me because I'd never like seen that. But so I sat on the toilet and I phoned Cody, and I was like, water broke, let's go, because he's downstairs. I didn't want to yell for him, so I phoned him, and he was like, okay, and he started getting ready downstairs and getting Mackenzie ready. And so I called Jana at 5:30, and I tell her my water just broke and we are leaving for the birth center. And she asked me if I'm sure if my water broke, and that sometimes bath water gets in there and just can kind of come out when you get up. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure my water broke. And so I stand up just from the toilet to make sure while I'm on the phone with her, and as she's saying, well, sometimes it's bath water and sometimes, and then I was like, well, no, it's pink. And then sure enough, when I stood up, I gave it like 3 seconds and another huge gush comes out. So I was like, nope, it's my water. We're coming. And so she was like, okay. And I tell her that we will be there in about 45 minutes. It takes about 40 minutes. It takes 40 minutes for us to get to the birth center, and so then just with the extra 10 minutes to kind of get everything ready, or 5 minutes to get everything ready and get into the truck. And so I call Cody and I tell him to grab me a giant maxi pad and some underwear so I can walk downstairs. And he comes upstairs with a pad and underwear and he's pulling on his sweater at the same time. And I laugh and I remember laughing and telling him like, oh, sorry, because my water broke all over his Adventure Time pajamas, and I just thought it was really funny. I was like, sorry, my water broke in your pajama pants. Because he shouldn't leave them on the bathroom floor, right? But, so I leave the bathroom and I hurry downstairs, and Kim's in the kitchen, Cody's mom. And so I go past them going downstairs, and Cody and I are like, let's go. And she's like, oh, is it time? And we're like, yep, let's go. And she's like, okay. And so she got ready. And then so I throw on my sweats and a tank top and a sweater, and I call Carla, who is my doula, and I tell her my water broke and that we will be at the birth center in 45 minutes. And so she goes, all right, let's go. And she's super excited. And so I made all the phone calls super short and super sweet. And then while I'm on the phone, I yell at Cody and I'm like, I need another pad because I've already soaked that one through. And I go to the bathroom to change it, and while I'm in there, I call Cody's sister because she's supposed to be coming to the birth as well. And so she had thankfully just gotten off work, and because her being at the birth was dependent on when I went to labor, whether or not she'd be at work or not, because she manages a store and so she has to be there. And so anyway, it was perfect because she was like, oh yay, she's like, okay, I'm just getting my pizzas and I'll be there in a second. And so we tell Cody's mom that just to carpool with Cody's sister, and I call my mom while Cody gets boots on Mackenzie and snaps one final belly photo of the belly. And so then we get in the truck, and in between this point, it's only been a few minutes of my water breaking to us getting in the truck, and I've had already about 3 contractions, and they're real contractions. And so we leave and I start listening to my Hypno Babies. I had been practicing Hypno Babies my entire pregnancy, and so but I really wasn't sure if it was going to work or not, because I kind of had a feeling that my primal instincts would override Hypno Babies really quickly. And so I relax my entire body. Contractions are coming and building very quickly. And so I post an update to Instagram and Facebook really quick while we're driving, and I keep my eyes closed and focused like the entire time while we drive. I let Cody know that the contractions are getting stronger as we're driving and they're getting serious and that we need to get there. But I also am like, don't rush, like let's get there safely, but I'm just letting you know that this is labor, it's going to be quick. And somehow we managed to get like all green lights all the way through the city. I don't know. It was just like crazy chance. It was like green, green, green. So we just drove right through on our way to the birth center. And so at this point, as we're driving through the green lights, we're already in the city, and there's just like a straight stretch to the birth center. But at this point, I'm having contractions serious enough where I'm having to like grab onto the handle of the truck and breathe through them quite heavily and just really, really relax and focus. And at this point, Hypno Babies is already starting to waver for me. So we finally get to the birth center, and it was actually really quick. And Cody grabs Mackenzie, Jaina, our midwife, comes out and just to come meet us, and I'm getting out of the truck. I end up having a contraction halfway through getting out of the truck, so I'm kind of like half out of the truck, half in the truck, because they're serious enough that I'm not moving through them. And so by that point I hurry into the birth center, and Jaina is standing there and she's kind of like, so are you contracting? Because she doesn't know some women, their water breaks and it's hours before they get their first contraction or anything, and I could just kind of told her, hey, my water broke, I'm coming. And so she asks how far apart they are, and I tell her they're like maybe 2 or 3 minutes apart, but probably less. And so she was like, okay. And the attending midwife and the student midwife that are there, so the attending midwife's name is Cassie and the student midwife is Bray. And they're there when I walk in, so they were all there together. And Jana asks what I want to do, and like, do I want to walk or do I want to like just hang out? And I was like, to the tub. And so she was like, okay. And so they went and they filled the tub for me. We head upstairs to the birth center, and I have a contraction kind of like while I'm walking up the stairs, but I think from like the adrenaline of being there, I managed to like continue walking, and that one was weird. But so they filled the tub right away for me, and I go into the bedroom and I settle into the open area because there's like the bed and then a nice open area with like lounge chairs and a baby bassinet and stuff, and then there's like a huge ensuite bathroom with a giant tub in it. So I settle into the open area with Mackenzie, and I have a contraction, and Mackenzie comes and she rubs my back and she touches my cheek and she goes, "You're doing so good, Mama. You're doing so great. It's okay. We're gonna meet baby Grayson today." And she was just amazing. She blew my mind during labor. She was amazing. And so I'm kneeling on the floor at this point. I think I was like getting stuff out of a bag for Mackenzie or something, or I was like grabbing my swimsuit or something. And so Jana comes over and chats with me. I don't really remember what it was about, but I'm pretty sure it was just to let me know that I could get in the tub, and that see if it slows down my labor, then I get out, kind of thing. But I have a contraction when she gets there and talks to me, and I'm like, I totally am just like, meh, and I shut her out and I have my contraction. And then at that point, I think it's when she went like, okay, I think this is gonna go kind of quick, and I think that's all when we kind of started to realize that I was going to have a fast labor. So we finished talking. Cody's grabbing all of the bags from the truck and bringing them in, and Cody walks in as I'm going into the bathroom, and he comes in and he helps me get my swim top on while I use the washroom one last time and try and pee. And then I get into the tub, and I remember saying like, "Shit, that's so much better," and I was like really loud, and I think, well, I said shit really loud, and then I said that's so much better to Cody, and well, because I was surprised that the water was so hot. And one of my fears about having, a water birth was that they wouldn't let me have the water hot enough because of like baby and stuff and needing to not be too hot for a baby. So I was really worried that if I had a water birth, I'd have to keep the water really tepid, and I hate tepid baths. I like really hot baths. And so I was like, oh, it's so hot, it's so nice, and it felt so good. And so Jana comes in and she's like, kind of like gives me a look, and she's like, and she said, oh, she heard me say shit, and so she thought maybe I was having Grayson. And then I was like, no, the water just feels really good. And so, and something you need to know about me, I don't swear at all. Like labor and occasionally, only with Cody in my sleep, I will swear. Not at him, but if like something is happening that's bothering me, like a dog is barking, sometimes I'll swear, and it's just really weird. So at this point, Hypnobabies is useless. It's not working. My primal instincts are taking over, but I play it in the background because it's kind of like a familiar comfort for me. Cody grabs me water and Gatorade and all my birthing beads from my blessing way and my birthing stones and candles. And the door is open now, and while Cody's grabbing all these things, everyone is just letting me labor alone in the tub on my own for a little bit. So after I'm in the tub, Carla, my doula, arrives. She settles in and immediately gets to work helping me. She asks me how I'm doing, and she's calm, and she sits by the tub, and she gets me a cold cloth for my face because I'm already getting really warm. And I wipe off my makeup before labor really starts or things really get going, and because I don't want makeup running down my face through all the pictures and through the videos, so I wipe off my makeup. So Cody's, and then shortly after Carla gets there, Cody's mom and sister come. They made it, and they peek into the bathroom and they say a quick hi, and then they head to the bedroom area to play with Mackenzie and give me some space. And so Kenzie keeps running in every once in a while and keeps telling me like, "You're doing so great, Mom, you're doing so great. Like, how are you doing?" And, "Oh, you're doing good, Mama." And it was just so adorable. She was making everybody laugh and just melt because she was being so cute. So at this point, contractions, he's loud. So at this point, contractions are getting stronger and longer and much more intense. So at 7 p.m., contractions are already 1 minute apart, and in between, I remember asking Cody, like, are we really having a baby right now? Because as intense as things were, everything was so calm and very casual, and it was just really relaxed and laid back, and it was really nice. So then Jaina comes in and asks how I'm doing, and she asked me some other questions, like if my positioning was okay, and if I needed anything, and just general things like that. I tried moving around in the tub, and I really was not comfortable in any other position besides like laying on my back in the tub. Which is kind of funny because I thought I might like squatting or like on all fours, but I hated it. I hated no position more than being on all fours. I continue having really intense contractions, and I can tell he's coming quickly. I feel calm and very peaceful though, and it's starting to feel better at this point to vocalize a little bit through my contractions, because again, hypnobabies is just gone. Like, my primal instincts are definitely overriding that, so by this point I'm liking a little bit of vocalization through each contraction. Ray, the student midwife, comes in every few minutes to check Grayson's heartbeat, and it's strong and steady every single time. I don't like the Doppler when I was in labor, and like my belly is so tight that it hurts when she pushes it on my belly to listen to him, and it's annoying, but I just ignore it and keep going because whatever, we gotta listen to his heartbeat. So Jaina tells me at this point that I can check myself if I want to and see if I can feel his head. And I'm like, okay, because I've been checking myself like the whole time. So, I didn't expect to feel anything though, anything like significant. I didn't expect to feel his head or anything right there. I thought, even though I knew things were happening quickly, I figured that, his head was still kind of far up there. So, I go ahead and check myself, and am shocked by the fact that my fingers are stopped by this giant thing. And I don't get more than maybe like an inch or so in before I touch his head, and I was like, oh my gosh, like his head is right there, like holy crap. And I was shocked at this point by how quickly things are going, and like that's when kind of the reality set in for me that things were going that quickly, like his head was right there. So Jaina tells me I can try and push with my next contraction, and she tells me that if it feels good, then go for it, and if it doesn't, then just kind of back off and wait a little bit. So a contraction comes and I push, and it doesn't feel incredible, but it, like it did with Mackenzie, like Mackenzie, it felt so good to push, but it feels slightly better than when I don't push, so I decided to keep it up. At 7:45 p.m. I start pushing. So Jaina asks if I can feel any cervix on his head, and I feel, and I tell her I'm not sure, it's just all sort of smooth. And I have another contraction, and then I feel again, and all of a sudden I can feel the lip of my cervix, which was really, really cool to be able to feel that, because I didn't realize that your cervix traveled down with the baby's head. I don't know what I thought it did. I just thought it opened and baby came down. But, so there was maybe like an inch left for my cervix to move at this point when I felt it. But it just felt so amazing to like feel his head and then feel my cervix. And like, I just love that I checked myself. Nobody else touched me. I did all my checking myself. So at this point I kept like pulling, this is a little maybe TMI for people, but I kept pulling goop out because it was really annoying, and it was bugging me because bits of like cervix and stuff was coming out, and I kept like pulling it out. I'm like, ew, that's really annoying. And it was kind of funny, but at this point, if I don't push with my contractions, it feels like my head is going to explode. Everything is so intense that I feel like the only thing I can do is push. I don't really have an urge to push him out, like I don't have like that like urge in my bottom, but I feel like the contractions are too hard to handle without pushing at this point. I ask for ice because my mouth is super dry from breathing and it's just bothering me. Kenzie keeps coming in and stealing ice and encouraging me, and she was just continuing to be really awesome and really happy and really upbeat. So Carly and Cody keep the ice coming to my mouth, but I remember it not being enough and I just wanted to like eat the entire freezer. So the bath is really hot at this point. I'm getting way too warm and it's making me really uncomfortable. But contractions are like less than a minute apart, and I don't really have time to do much about the discomfort of the hot bath. And it's not that the water is too hot really, it's just me getting hot in the hot water. Jana and Cassie, so my midwife and the assisting midwife, keep putting hot water in to fill the tub and also to keep him warm enough for when he's born, because he is like ready to come out. So I felt for cervix the contraction after I felt the first time. When I felt my cervix, I had another contraction and then I felt it again. And I couldn't feel any cervix this time. Just something squishy, which was his head, but it didn't really feel like his head. It was just like this weird squishy thing. And so, then I've been having like slight waves of nausea since I felt his head the first time with each contraction. They're not awful. I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna puke totally, but it was there, and I like let Carla know and I let Cody know like I might puke, so just be aware of that. And so I took like my peppermint essential oil and I put it on a cloth and I just like held that kind of by my nose and inhaled that, and because I wasn't quite feeling like I was gonna puke, I was just trying not to get to that point. But I start really pushing with my legs back at this point in the tub. It's super uncomfortable and I keep shying away from every push. Like I push, but like at that point where like I should be like, yeah, I'm like, eh. And so his head feels sort of stuck at this point, and not really stuck, but really his head feels really big to me and really tight. Like it's kind of like not coming down as smoothly as it should. Like, again, it's not stuck, but it's just not as smooth as it should be. And so Cassie helps me by holding my leg back, and pushing at this point isn't really hurting, but my butt feels like it's gonna flip inside out, and it's really uncomfortable, and I can't push past it because I'm worried about my existing hemorrhoids that I had from Mackenzie, and like it literally just felt, I don't even know, like pushing didn't really hurt. Like my vagina was fine, but it felt like my butt was just gonna flip inside out and there was just gonna be butthole floating in the water. It was just really silly, and but I couldn't push past it, so I'd like push and then like I was like, no, my butthole's gonna flip out, and so I wouldn't push past that point. And at this point I'm just really freaking hot in the tub. Cody's been right beside me the whole time. Just having him there is amazing. Like just his presence there gives me tons of strength, and I'm just so happy. He was just like, even him just being in the room was good enough. But so Jana can see that I'm resisting a bit at this point, and she asks if it's my butt that's hurting me, and I'm like, yes. And so she's like, okay, do you want me to apply some pressure? And I was like, yes. And so she grabs a cloth and applies pressure, and it feels so much better. She just basically like holds my butthole in and it feels so much better. I'm really uncomfortable in this position in the hard bathtub, but any other position in the tub feels horrible, so I'm trying to stay in the tub because I'm worried that it'll be like contractions and stuff will be way too intense out of the tub. So I'm trying my best to stay in the tub, but I'm so freaking hot because labor is just making me really, really warm, and then being in the warm bath, it's just getting to be way too much. I push again and his head is starting to poke out a bit, but he's not quite crowning yet. It's just like we're very, very close. And then after that contraction, I have totally had enough, and I'm just like, I need to get out of the tub right now. And so everybody goes, okay, and everyone jumps up to help me out and get into the bed. And so I walk to the bed just in time to have another contraction, and I like face plant into the pillows, and I have a contraction and I'm on all fours and it's horrible. I hated being on all fours. Tried it a couple times, but like upright or over like that, it was horrible. It felt awful. And so I remember when I'm sitting, like for that contraction where I'm like face planted into the pillows, I yelled, "Jane, help my butt," because she hasn't quite made it to the bed yet. And so she's like, "Okay," and she comes, and again, like every time she's not pressing, it just feels like my butthole is going to turn inside out. And at this point, I'm still pushing with each contraction because I can't not. So then Jana suggests I lay on my side to see if it feels better, and it feels way better. So I lay on my right side and I curl around Cody, and he's holding my hand, like my right hand, and he's like laying on his side too, and I kind of like curl myself around him, and Carla is holding up my left leg in the air for me. And I'm still having a really hard time convincing myself to push past the butt pressure at this point. Cassie's just telling me to go for it. She's like, just do it, just push past, you got this. And Jana promises me that she's got my butt and it's not gonna flip inside out. And at this point, Cody kisses me and squeezes my hand, and he's like, Cody was amazing because he's like, when I was still resisting, he's like, "You got this," and he's just, so I decided it's not going to feel any better, and so I decided just to do it and go for it. So what I did is I just buried my face in Cody's forearm because we were like holding hands, and so I just like dug my face into his arm and I pushed, and there was no easing his head out at all. Like his head was not ease-outable. Like my body was just telling me like get him out. So there was no like light breathing to get his head out or anything. I can tell that I'm going to tear at this point because I remember it feeling just really tight and dry. And I remember, I remember wishing at this point that I had time for like oil, for the olive oil I had brought, because I felt like that would like really help, but we just didn't have time. And so I pushed again, like during that push, I feel his head come out with a bit of a burn, but like it was like a flash of hot, and it wasn't in my vagina, it was across my face, which was really weird, and it was only for like a split second. But I felt the tear as it happened, and in my head I'm like, oh, well, there's the tear, and like it didn't necessarily hurt or like it wasn't that awful. It was just kind of like, oh, that happened. Cody tells me his head is out at this point, and I don't really believe him because I thought I had just crowned with that burn and that tear. But they're like, no, feel his head. And so it's out, and so I feel, and I reach down and I feel, and his head is out, and it's big. And I'm still kind of shocked that it's happening all so fast. And so Jana at this point tells me to do little pushes to get his shoulders out. And I try, but I don't know how successful I was because my body just really did not want to do things slowly. So his shoulders came out, and I looked down, and I saw him, and he's right there, and she tells me to grab him, and I remember grabbing him like under his arms, and she's kind of helping with his head, and I got to like hold him as I pushed the last part of him out, his butt out, and I brought him up to my chest, and the cord was wrapped around his body a little bit, so we just had to kind of like untangle him, and so at 8:35 I push him the rest of the way out, and I bring him to my chest. And it was amazing, like, to be able to, like, reach down and pull your own baby out, and, like, yeah, that's cool, but, like, to reach out and be holding him as I push him out was, like, really, really, really out of this world and amazing. And, so Jana tells me not to, like, hold him too high because my cord was kind of short. And, I remember just, like, looking at him, and we're just amazed that he was here. And all that waiting and all that time and all that early labor, and he's finally here, and I'm getting emotional. I remember telling him happy birthday, and he cried a little bit, and that was it. He didn't really cry very much. Sorry, I'm totally getting teary-eyed. So Cody and I confirm that he's a boy, because it's kind of funny. We had this ongoing joke when I was in like that last month of pregnancy where like watch like what happens if it's a girl. What happens if it was wrong and he comes out a girl. And so it's just kind of like a little inside joke we had, and so we confirmed that he's a boy. And yeah, and that was just really a really funny part, that we were just like, and nobody really got it, and we have a little bit of a video of that where we're like, it is a boy, and everyone's kind of like, yeah, of course it's a boy, but it was just our inside joke. At this point, Cassie gets me to feel his cord, because his cord's like pulsing, and so I'm like, okay, because I was telling them that like I really want to make sure it's completely done before we cut the cord and make sure it's completely limp and loose. And so I feel it, and that was so amazing. Like, I felt down and I could feel like, I guess, my heartbeat in it, and it was really cool, and I could feel like the blood pulsing to him, and it was just so neat, and it was so strong, and it was like really weird feeling, but so cool that like that pulse was so strong in the cord. It was amazing. And so at this point, Jane is watching for bleeding, because we didn't know if I was going to hemorrhage again, and just waiting for my placenta, but I don't feel any more contractions at this point, and I latch him on to help me contract and help my placenta detach and come out. But again, just like with Mackenzie, I don't feel any contractions to push my placenta out. I don't know, I guess I just don't feel those, and my body's like, okay, the baby's out, I'm done. So after his cord stops pulsing and is totally limp, Cody and Mackenzie cut his cord, and they do it together, and it's so cute. So the first time we get to nurse him, he's still attached to the umbilical cord, and you can actually see that in one of the photos. So then I pass him to Cody so that I can birth the placenta. Again, like, I'm on my back and it's not working because I don't have any urge to push. So Jana suggests, she's like, why don't you, let's try squatting. And so like I grab Jana's hands, and Jana and Cassie and Carla, my doula, they all help me up into a squatting position, and I just put my forehead on Jana's shoulder, and Carla and Cassie both support both my sides, and I kind of like push a little bit, and my placenta just kind of plops out. Which is funny because I felt like the whoosh with the placenta, but I didn't really feel like a whoosh sensation when Grayson was born. And with Mackenzie, I felt a big whoosh sensation when she was born, so I was kind of expecting it again, so it was weird that I felt it with the placenta, not with him. So I lay back down, and Cody hands me Grayson, and the three of us just look him over and give him lots of love, and the midwives check me over while we're just kind of bonding. They decide to put a couple of stitches in because I have about a 2nd degree tear and some small minor tears. And someone, I don't remember who, but I'm pretty sure it's Carla, she gets me a cold cloth for my butt, and it's awesome. Yeah, like cold compress for your bum right after labor is awesome. So Cassie tells me that it might hurt as she begins to stitch me up. She's teaching Ray, the student midwife, and she's talking through everything at this point. But it doesn't hurt at all, really. And then they finish up, and while she's doing it, she's talking to Ray, and she's like, and she obviously has a really high pain tolerance, which is funny because I don't consider myself to have a high pain tolerance, but apparently I have a really high pain tolerance. And I've been told that several times in my life, but I think it's, I don't know, for me I think it's more just my attitude. So they finish sewing me up and putting their stitches in and cleaning me up, and they tuck me in with a blankie, and then that's when this whole time we've kind of been discussing his position at birth. And so Jana and Cassie, like what I had been told after by Cody and Carla, was that as his head was coming out, after the top of his head was birthed, like after I crowned it and you could start to see his forehead, Jana looks at Cassie and she's like, oh my god. And Cody, I did not hear any of this. I was like zoned out pushing him out. And Carla was kind of like, uh-oh. And Cody gave her a look like, uh-oh. And she was like, no, it's fine, keep going. And apparently he was born facing my right side. So he was not in a very good position. As if I'm not mistaken, he was LOT. So he was left occiput transverse, I believe. Meaning he was completely facing my right side. Like his whole body was to my right. So meaning I birthed the largest part of his head possible came out first. And then his shoulders came out like diagonally. So they came out like this is the top of his shoulder, this is the bottom. They just came out like this. And so everybody was really surprised at that, because usually, if I'm not mistaken, that usually means an emergency C-section or forceps or a really severe episiotomy. It's just not. Most women just can't birth that position because their hips are not big enough. The babies usually get lodged in their hips, and or they just have issues, and those babies are usually not born vaginally, let alone born vaginally, and nobody knew about it until he was born. And so we chatted about that for a little while, and I was as that sunk in, I was kind of like, whoa, like, really? Like, that's really cool. I feel really awesome that I was just able to push a baby out like that. But this explains he was born with an enormous bruise on his head. The whole right side of his head, right? Yes, the whole right side of his head was like pushed up and swollen and bruised. And his nose is a little bit bruised too, but that explains why I pushed for so long and why he had the bruise on his head, and that explains why he felt really big to push down, why I had that like weird tight feeling where it didn't feel like he was stuck, but it felt like he was like big to push out. Like I can't really explain it, but it felt like he was like, it felt like it was like a tight fit. And so that explains why. It was because it was a tight fit. Yeah, so I'm just really proud that I birthed him problem-free like that. So Jaina weighs him after this, and after like they've sewed me up and tucked me in, so Jaina weighs him, and puts him in the sling, and she's lifting him up, and I'm like, wait, everybody take a guess, because when he was first born, I was like, oh, he's small, and they were like, no, he's not small, he's big, and I was like, really? Like, no, I think he's small. And so, everybody was guessing, and there was like a lot of like, there was like an 8'11", and 8'7", and lots of 8s, and so Jaina lifts up the sling, and she waits for it to go, and then she's like, 9 pounds 4 ounces, and I remember I was just shocked, like my jaw dropped, and I was like, what? I just delivered a 9-pound baby? Are you kidding me? And so it was kind of funny. Everybody like laughed, and everybody was like, oh my god, 9 pounds. So Brandy, or like my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law, Cody's mom and sister, they finished kind of like ogling over him, and they say goodbye and they head home. And then Carla heads home too shortly after that, and the midwives just kind of give us some alone time to bond, and I just remember I feel really, really, really awesome at this point, and I feel great. I'm not that uncomfortable. There's not a lot of pain after, like it's slightly tender, but that's about it. So the midwives all come in to fill out paperwork and to take his measurements, and he is 21 inches with a 36-inch head, and Mackenzie was 34, so he was a full pound and a full inch bigger than Mackenzie, with 2 inches of a bigger head. So we decide to give him oral vitamin K at this point, which is just vitamin K and like olive oil mixed. Because of the severe bruising and swelling of his head, I wasn't okay with the shot, but we decided to do oral vitamin K because it's spread over 6 weeks. And so we gave him his first drop then, and that's when Cassie was filling out paperwork and she asked what his name is, but I remember I'm like, can I just have a second to like calm down and absorb all of this so I can make sure that I like his name and it suits him. Just like I needed a minute to like just kind of absorb everything and take in the moment. And then shortly after, I was like looking at him and I was like thinking of the other names we had, and I was like, no, those all sound awful, or like they don't fit. So I was like, yes, his name is Grayson Wyatt. And so we filled out that, and there's just like more chatting at this point. We kind of like, we're all talking and laughing, and we are allowed to leave 2 hours after his birth, so we decide we might as well go home and stop at Peter's on the way home. Now Peter's here is just like, it's specific to us, to our city, and it's like this, they have like, I don't know, freaking 60 flavors of milkshakes or something. It's awesome. So it's like this burger milkshake joint, and it's just really delicious. And if you're ever over in this area, you gotta go to Peter's. And so we decided, yeah, like, let's go get milkshakes. Let's go to Peter's because they close at 11. And so Cassie tells me I should try and pee. And right before that, Ray helps me get him dressed and put some clothes on him. And I go to the washroom. And I'm sitting there for a while, but I remember that I like couldn't pee at this point because it was just, I don't know, too soon after birth and I couldn't pee. So I sit there forever, it felt like, and then I was like, no, okay, I give up on peeing, and Cody helps me get dressed. And thank goodness I packed Depends are a must when you have a baby because they are awesome afterwards. So we chat with the midwives a little more as we gather our stuff together and put Grayson in his car seat. And I remember Cassie commenting on how long I'm standing for there. But besides a little tenderness, I feel totally great at this point. I'm like, I don't really feel like I just had a baby. I kind of just feel like I ran a little bit of a marathon and that's about it. So Cody packs up the truck and we continue chatting with the midwives a little bit. Jane is telling me just to take it really easy and to avoid stairs for a couple days and just, at least for the 24 hours, just stay in bed. And so then at 10:45 p.m. we hug all the midwives and we say goodbye, and I remember telling Jane, I'm like, I feel like a rock star for pushing him out, like, with that position. And that was when it really started, like, I started absorbing everything and having time, and I was like, I feel so epic for being able to push him out with no problems, and just with us not even knowing of his position. And I just remember being really, really, really proud of myself. And so Jana helps me into the back seat and tells me to take it easy and just relax, and she's like, I'll call you tomorrow and see how you're doing, and we'll meet up for his because your midwife meets with you like a day or two after to just do your little baby wellness check. It's 10:45, we head to Peter's and we grab milkshakes real quick before they close at 11, and we go home, and we get home before midnight, and Cody's dad has cleaned our entire house for us, which is amazing. So we come home to a beautifully clean house, and we introduce Grayson to Cody's dad, and his mom comes down for a little visit, and they only stay down for like 10 minutes, and then they go, and I finally pee, and they just give us our space, and Mackenzie is conked out from the drive, and so Cody just transferred her right to bed, and she was sleeping for the night. And Cody and I just laid there and stared at him for a little while, and just kind of, I don't know, we just felt so blessed and so happy, and I just remember staring at him, and I'm at a loss for words because it was just amazing, an amazing experience. And Cody headed to bed probably around 1 or 1:30, and I followed him shortly after. I just nursed Grayson and just got to know him and talked to him and cuddled him, and then we went to sleep, and that was it. It was just an amazing experience, and it was so healing for me. His birth really like rocked me to my core. It strengthened my marriage in ways I didn't even know it could be strengthened. Like, I feel close, like, I highly recommend purely natural birth for any marriage, because it's not like, our marriage has always been great, and then after Grayson's birth now, I feel more drawn and connected to Cody than it's on a completely different level that I didn't even know existed. It's amazing, and I just feel, I don't know, I feel like Grayson just, I needed him for my soul, and so he just kind of healed a spot that was kind of broken, and I feel very complete and very whole. And I just love him so much, and I can't believe that it was so amazing. So, thanks for listening to my birth story and our birth story, and if you can see, this little guy is sound asleep after nursing, And this is what he does a lot of the time. He sleeps and eats and opens his eyes and smiles, and he's just such a happy little guy. And I was so happy, I'm so happy that I was able to give him a calm and perfectly peaceful birth. So thanks for listening to our birth story, and you can look for part 4 where I will do a question and answer video, and hopefully really soon I'll be able to do that. So yeah, bye!